Hello, beautiful friends. I am Laurel Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while deepening in your connection with your beautiful team of angels who love you so. If we're meeting for the first time, I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. And I do this through one-on-one angel sessions, soul mentoring, and a variety of classes designed to inspire your spirit. And you can learn more at my website, illuminatingsouls.com. But for now, I am here to help you receive the love of the angels and to help you come into a state of rest if your intention is to fall asleep. So I've designed this podcast to be a sleep aid, to serve as a bridge between your waking consciousness and that beautiful mystery of sleep. And I use a sleep podcast every single night to help me go to sleep. And so I have created this for you. And I also know that some of you use the podcast during the daytime to keep you company, to be your companion. And so however you choose to partake in this podcast, I am honored and delighted for this opportunity to be with you. If you are preparing for sleep, I invite you to cozy on up and snuggle on in. That is my mantra for bedtime. Just the word cozy is so lovely, isn't it? This invitation to cozy on up, or to snuggle up. There is just something about it that is an invitation for the body and the soul. So I invite you to crawl in bed in whatever way serves you best. I like lots of pillows and lots of blankets, and it's starting to get cooler here in our area, and so that means that I am just a few short weeks away from being able to add even more blankets onto the bed. I love it. Like I add one at a time, and then it gets a little colder, and I add another one. And each blanket I add, I sleep more deeply. There's something about the weight of the blankets that really comforts me. And yes, I have tried sleeping with a weighted blanket, but it just doesn't seem to work for me in the same way. So I invite you to get comfortable, whether you tuck your blankets up around your legs like a burrito, or whether your blankets are tucked in at the end of the bed so your feet have more freedom. Whether you sleep on your stomach or on your back or on your side, you just find the position that works best for you and allow your body to relax and grow heavier, taking a nice deep breath in and release. And as I record this episode, it is overcast and cool. It's one of those days where I know I'll go outside at some point, but I am so contented to be in the house. And then to add to my delight, I get to come into the blanket fort. So I'm cozied up. I am cozied up and snuggled in to the blanket fort as I record this to you. And I get to whisper to you. We get to conspire together and just share the beauty and the intimacy of this moment. And I get to keep you company, which is such a luxury. It is such a blessing, and I am grateful for the gift of you. I will also say, I don't know what the energy is going to be like by the time you listen to this. And when I say the energy, I mean the collective energy. I will say right now, the collective energy, I do not know what is going on, but it feels like it's ramping up. I have had the oddest, most anxious dreams the past few nights. Now, I know you're getting ready for bed, so I don't want to program anything. I don't know that there's anything over which we need to have anxiety, but my version of the kind of dream where you realize you forgot to put on clothes and you walk into the classroom, you know, that archetypal dream we always hear about. My version of it is that I have forgotten to go to work. And I still am in my corporate job that I left 16 years ago. And I had a dream the other night that lasted. It seemed to me that it went on the whole night, but as we know, as far as dreams go, it may have only just been 2 minutes. But I had one of those dreams where I had completely forgotten that I was working for this company. And yet I was still getting paid, and I wondered how long it would take them to realize that I had done no work. And what was I going to tell them? I don't know what stirred that up. I did not eat spicy food before I went to bed, but I woke up and I was exhausted. I thought, goodness gracious, my consciousness is working through something or another. So I just mentioned that in case you've been feeling it too. You know, as empaths, we feel energy that may or may not belong to us. I do not have any major anxiety themes playing in my life right now. So the dream that I had did not necessarily mirror something I am personally experiencing. Instead, it feels like it has to do with some kind of inflammation in the collective consciousness. The reason I bring it up is quite often in these broadcasts, I ask the angels to clear away that which does not belong to us. And that is precisely the kind of energy that I ask to be cleared. So if I'm having anxious dreams, yet in my waking world I am not anxious, then typically that anxious energy is not mine. It's not that I don't get worried and anxious about stuff. I promise you, I am a mercurial, dramatic, emotional earth girl. I have plenty of things I have deep feelings about. But I'm aware of my emotional material, so if I am feeling overwhelmed about something, I typically can tend to myself compassionately. But it's these weird flyby emotional waves that really get my attention because they are not typically anchored to something I am personally experiencing. So, how would it be if I call in the angels and ask them to clear the energy for us? Especially as you get ready to go to bed, let's clear out the energetic closets so that you can have a good night's rest. And hopefully your dreams can be sweet. So I'm going to invite the angels to be with us, even though they are already here. So beautiful angels on high, we invite you to join us here. And even as I speak these words, I feel your loving presence infusing this broadcast in service to each of our beloveds that is listening to these messages. And angels, I ask that you create a beautiful vibrational sanctuary where each one of us can gracefully drift off into a good night's rest. And dear ones, just take some nice deep breaths in, breathing all the way down into your center and releasing, allowing the love of your angels to meet you where you are. You see, you do not need to raise up your energy to be with the angels. The angels will always meet you where you are. And just allow for a soft cascade of light to come to you. This light is infused with divine love that has been calibrated just for you. And very gently, almost like the way you would use a lint roller, the angels are beginning to clear off your energy field, your light body, of those threads of energy that are not yours. And just allow your field to be cleared through the heart of God. And the angels bring you healing. And they are also bringing to you one of my favorite vibrations, which is a lightness of spirit. If you contemplate that for a moment, quite often the heaviness we feel is in our earthly bodies. Not only our earthly physical bodies, but our emotional and mental bodies as well. But our true authentic spirit, the greater expanse of all that we are, there is a lightness to us as well. And so when the angels bring in a lightness of spirit, I typically feel a sense of playfulness. I feel a sense of renewed hope. I feel buoyancy. I feel joy and playfulness. And so I invite you to simply breathe in a beautiful lightness of spirit, a lightness of your spirit, helping to renew that innate sense of playfulness and happiness that exists vibrationally within you. Even if it's not getting much airtime right now, it still exists. So just breathe in, allowing the wholeness and the fullness of all that you are to come front and center. There is beauty blossoming open for you right now. There are dreams that are being seeded in your name. I affirm your future is bright. And just breathe, allowing the love to flow to you to help calibrate your energy field as the angels help you to remember who you are as a divine being in human form. And dear one, if there are any prayers or intentions you wish to share with the angels, we invite you to bring them into your heart, and you can share them silently with your angels now. Just share with them what is in your heart. And we bring to you prayers of health and vitality. We bring to you prayers of financial abundance. We bring to you prayers of beloved love and intimacy. We bring you prayers of inspiration and creativity. We bring to you prayers for our loved ones and for those who love us. And we bring you prayers for this beautiful world and all its inhabitants. And just allow this prayer circle to ripple as the angels amplify and magnify the prayers. That you don't have to do the heavy lifting here. It is enough that you are serving as a single beautiful point of light in this glorious matrix of love that exists in this time and space. You are one of the ways God's love exists here in this world. You are a miracle. You are a blessing. And we are so deeply grateful for the gift of you. So just take some more nice deep breaths in, just allowing your body to relax. You have done enough for this day, and you are worthy of a good expanse of rest. And I'm going to be here with you for an hour or so. The angels will be here with you, even beyond this broadcast. And so you go ahead whenever you're ready and drift off, but no hurry, because I have lots to share with you. And you can just listen to the rhythm of my voice. I'll just be a soft and friendly voice for you to pay attention to until it is your time to drift. And even if for some reason you're still awake at the end of the episode, don't worry. There's lots more in the archive. So we have lots we can talk about. And you can listen. I'll do all the talking. How's that? And so while you rest, I'm going to tell you a story. So I thought that we could explore the beauty of California, and especially through the lens of John Muir, who was a great naturalist who wrote a lot about California and much more than that. So I thought I would share with you how I came to this theme for this broadcast. So when Wes and I were in Utah last week, one of the many adventures we went on was to go to a few rare bookstores. You know, when people go on vacation, I know probably each one of you have your own thing that you love to do. Wes and I love old bookstores. We can get lost in them forever. When we were in Kona back in, I think it would have been 2010 or so, we found the Kona used bookstore, which was this giant warehouse, and we must have gone back there 2 or 3 times and had a huge carton of books shipped back to us. And so when we were in Salt Lake, we were in Park City, but Salt Lake is only about 35 minutes away. We had Friday afternoon free. And I should confess, I was tired and overwhelmed and crabby because I do not handle the stimulus of new places very gracefully anymore. But I had found a rare bookstore in Salt Lake. And so we decided to go. And then we found a second one, which was even better than the first one. But at the first one, I found this book, The Mountains of California by John Muir. It was originally printed in 1894, not the copy that I have, it's not that old. But since it was written in 1894, it means that it is in the public domain, and so I can read it to you. And so I thought this would be a lovely book for us to wander through together. And before I start reading it to you, I thought I would share with you my own experiences of Muir Woods and the mountains of California. So I grew up in Chicago, in the Chicago area. I grew up in Skokie, but Chicago was the main city nearby. And the part of Illinois that I lived in, and perhaps all of Illinois, I don't know for sure, is very flat. We don't have mountains there. We have man-made mountains, which we would call our skyscrapers. So all of our vertical lift was received by going to the tops of skyscrapers, going to the top of the John Hancock or the Sears Tower. And the first time I ever visited California would have been in 1985, and I was 23 years old. This was a few months before I wound up moving there. And if you go back to my podcast episode about unexpected family, I share with you more about that trip. But one of the things I wanted to reflect on is that our trip was in March. And the thing about LA that I did not know at that time is more often than not, LA is covered in smog. I know that does not sound lovely, and it is not lovely. It is just part of the price that we pay for living in Los Angeles. So when we were there in March, it was one of those rare weeks when the winds were blowing just so that the skies were crystal clear. The skies were blue, and you could see the mountains everywhere you looked. So I was under the impression this is what Los Angeles looked like all the time. but it is not. But it was enchanting. We stayed out in Universal City, and especially the valley gets covered in smog, but not that week. And I remember being enchanted by the hills and the mountains and that people lived up there. And I would drive our rental car to the top of these winding roads to see the view. And especially at night, it was spectacular. And then after I moved there and many, many years later, I found great joy in hiking the trails at Will Rogers State Park and the Santa Monica Mountains, and really fell in love with the topography of California. And now I live in the Bay Area, about 40 minutes away from Muir Woods, which is a really beautiful, pristine grove of old growth coastal redwoods that have been preserved. And it is I think it's a national park. And I love going there. And I'm having an interesting moment in my consciousness about Muir Woods right now. I have the whole day ahead of me as I record this. It is the morning. And it's been a really busy few weeks. We had our trip, and we had some work done around the house this past week. And so there's been a lot of stimulus. And again, I don't know how you process this stuff, but I tend to need great expanses of quiet to recover. So for about all of 5 minutes this morning, I thought, oh, you know what? I should go to Muir Woods today. And I don't know if you heard an episode that I did. It was about 2 episodes ago where I shared with you about my alter ego, who does things like she goes to the beach to do yoga and has plenty of energy to travel and do stuff. So my alter ego, Laurel, loves the idea of getting in the car spontaneously and driving up 37 to the 101 to Marin, to drive up the mountain to Muir Woods and go for a hike today. Like, of course, why wouldn't I do that? I have the day to myself and I love Muir Woods. And then my reality is, I am also the Laurel who is tired today. And it feels like a lot to get in my car and go up there. And so I have decided that instead of going up to Muir Woods, I likely will just do my Costco run, which is just a few miles away from me. And that is the paradox of being me, is I have these beautiful waves of inspiration, and then I have to negotiate with the reality of my energy stores, like what I in reality can handle today. And so I just have to tell you that in my astral world, you are with me and you live somewhere nearby. Let's just fully flesh this out. And maybe I come and I pick you up and we're going to drive up 37. You don't even need to know what that is. It's one of the roads here that gets us up to Marin. And we're going to then drive up 101 to whatever that road is, that exit that we take to get to Muir Woods. And then we drive up. It takes about 20 minutes to get up the mountain, but it's beautiful. And we'll roll the windows down because you can smell the redwoods. You can smell the aroma of the forest as we start driving further and further up the mountain. And then when we finally make it to Muir Woods, there is always some lovely employee of Muir Woods who will guide us into the right parking lot, because you need to have parking reservations to go to Muir Woods. But we get a good parking space because, the parking angels and all that. I taught you about them in another podcast. And not that there's bad parking in Muir Woods. It's Muir Woods and you've come here to walk anyways. So everywhere's a good parking space. And then we'll park the car and we'll outfit ourselves in whatever way we want to do that. Typically, I bring a hat because I have fair skin. But there isn't much sun in Muir Woods because usually there's just a dense canopy of trees, which is awesome. And I usually bring some water and a jacket because it can be cool there. And then we'll lock up my car and we'll walk up to the entrance of Muir Woods. It can be as much as a quarter mile to walk to it, but it's really a beautiful walk. And so we'll have some opportunities to catch up and look at the beauty around us. And then when we get to the entrance of Muir Woods, I am going to treat you because I have purchased an annual pass. So I'll flash the pass and we'll enter Muir Woods, which is a cathedral of coastal redwoods. The trees reach up to the sky and the diameter of their trunks is immense. And as we walk along the trail, we take in the beauty and we breathe in the scent of the forest. And the thing that is so lovely about Muir Woods is they have built redwood decking for the trail. It is to help maintain and preserve the trees, but it also makes for a lovely walk. And all along the walk, there are different plaques that tell us what we're looking at, how old the forest is, its history, its preservation, how it's taken care of. And even though there are other people on the trail, we can still feel into the quiet of the forest. And so I just invite you to join me for our virtual walk in Muir Woods. And we'll even find a tree or two that we can commune with, and you can touch its bark. Its bark is both soft and rough at the same time. And as you touch the tree, just imagine that you can feel its heartbeat. This tree has been here for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And the tree shares its wisdom with you. And so that's what we would do if we were visiting together up at Muir Woods. And it's a lovely 2-mile walk, really easy. And there's benches also scattered throughout the trail, so we could even sit down somewhere and talk or drink some water or journal or just meditate. It's very peaceful here. And then when we feel like we've had enough, we would walk back to the car and I would drive us down to a wonderful little grocery store called the Good Earth. Not the Good Earth restaurant that used to be in Los Angeles. Alas, it is not that. But it is a wonderful grocery store. And so we can grab some lunch or brunch and eat outside and visit and bathe in the beauty of our time together. So that's our virtual play date at Muir Woods. And I'm glad to share it with you. And so now I've set the stage a bit for sharing with you From the Mountains of California by John Muir. So we're going to start with Chapter 1, the Sierra Nevada. Go where you may within the bounds of California, and mountains are ever in sight, charming and glorifying every landscape. Yet so simple and massive is the topography of the state in general views, that the main central portion displays only one valley and two chains of mountains, which seem almost perfectly regular in trend and height. The Coast Range on the west side, the Sierra Nevada on the east. These two ranges coming together in curves on the north and south enclose a magnificent basin with a level floor more than 400 miles long and from 35 to 60 miles wide. This is the Grand Central Valley of California, the waters of which have only one outlet to the sea through the Golden Gate. But with this general simplicity of features, there is great complexity of hidden detail. The Coast Range, rising as a grand green barrier against the ocean from 2,000 to 8,000 feet high, is composed of innumerable forest-crowned spurs, ridges, and rolling hill waves, which enclose a multitude of smaller valleys, some looking out through long forest-lined vistas to the sea, others with but few trees to the central valley, while 1,000 others yet smaller are embosomed and concealed in mild, round-browed hills, each with its own climate, soil, and productions. Making your way through the mazes of the Coast Range to the summit of any of the inner peaks or passes opposite San Francisco in the clear springtime, the grandest and most telling of all California landscapes is outspread before you. At your feet lies the great Central Valley, glowing golden in the sunshine, extending north and south farther than the eye can reach, one smooth, flowery, lake-like bed of fertile soil. Along its eastern margin rises the mighty Sierra, miles in height, reposing like a smooth cumulus cloud in the sunny sky, and so gloriously colored and so luminous it seems to be not clothed with light, but wholly composed of it, like the wall of some celestial city. Along the top and extending a good way down, you see a pale pearl gray belt of snow, and below it, a belt of blue and dark purple marking the extensions of the forest, and along the base of the range a broad belt of rose purple and yellow, where the miners' gold fields and the foothill gardens. All these colored belts blending smoothly make a wall of light, ineffably fine and as beautiful as a rainbow, yet firm as adamant. When I first enjoyed this superb view one glowing April day from the summit of the Pacheco Pass, the Central Valley, but little trampled or plowed as yet, was one furred, rich sheet of golden composite, and the luminous wall of the mountains shone in all its glory, the Nevada or Snowy Range, but the range of light, and after 10 years spent in the heart of it, rejoicing and wondering, bathing in its glorious floods of light, seeing the sunbursts of morning among the icy peaks, the noonday radiance on the trees and rocks and snow, the flush of the alpen glow and 1,000 dashing waterfalls with their marvelous abundance of irised spray, it still seems to me above all others the range of light, that most divinely beautiful of all the mountain chains I have ever seen. The Sierra is about 500 miles long, 70 miles wide, and from 7,000 to nearly 15,000 feet high. In general views, no mark of man is visible on it, nor anything to suggest the richness of the life it cherishes or the depth and grandeur of its sculpture. None of its magnificent forest-crowned ridges rises much above the general level to publish its wealth. No great valley or lake is seen, or river or group of well-marked features of any kind standing out in distinct pictures. Even the summit peaks, so clear and high in the sky, seem comparatively smooth and featureless. Nevertheless, glaciers are still at work in the shadows of the peaks, and thousands of lakes and meadows shine and bloom beneath them, and the whole range is furrowed with canyons to a depth of from 2,000 to 5,000 feet, in which once flowed majestic glaciers, and in which now flow and sing a band of beautiful rivers. Though of such stupendous depth, these famous canyons are not raw, gloomy, jagged, walled gorges, savage and inaccessible. With rough passages here and there, they still make delightful pathways for the mountaineer, conducting from the fertile lowlands to the highest icy fountains, as a kind of mountain streets full of charming life and light, graded and sculptured by the ancient glaciers, and presenting throughout all their courses a rich variety of novel and attractive scenery, the most attractive that has yet been discovered in the mountain ranges of the world. In many places, especially in the middle region of the western flank of the range, the main canyons widen into spacious valleys or parks, diversified like artificial landscape gardens, with charming groves and meadows and thickets of blooming bushes, while the lofty retiring walls, infinitely varied in form and sculpture, are fringed with ferns, flowering plants of many species, oaks and evergreens, which find anchorage on 1,000 narrow steps and benches, while the whole is enlivened and made glorious with rejoicing streams that come dancing and foaming over the sunny brows of the cliffs to join the shining river that flows in tranquil beauty down the middle of each one of them. The walls of these park valleys of the Yosemite kind are made up of rock mountains in size, partly separated from each other by narrow gorges and side canyons, and they are so sheer in front and so compactly built together on a level floor that comprehensively seen, the parks they enclose look like immense halls or temples lighted from above. Every rock seems to glow with life. Some lean back in majestic repose, others absolutely sheer or nearly so for thousands of feet advanced their brows in thoughtful altitudes beyond their companions, giving welcome to storms and calms alike, seemingly conscious yet heedless of everything going on about them, awful in stern majesty, types of permanence, yet associated with beauty of the frailest and most fleeting forms, their feet set in pine groves and gay emerald meadows, their brows in the sky bathed in light, bathed in floods of singing water, while snow clouds, avalanches, and the winds shine and surge and wreath about them as the years go by, as if into these mountain mansions nature had taken pains to gather her choicest treasures, to draw her lovers into close and confiding communion with her. Here, too, in the middle region of the deepest canyons, are the grandest forest trees of the sequoia, king of conifers, the noble sugar and yellow pines, Douglas spruce, and the silver firs, each a giant of its kind, assembled together in one and the same forest, surpassing all other coniferous forests in the world, both in the number of its species and in the size and beauty of its trees. The winds flow in melody through their colossal spires, and they are vocal everywhere with the songs of birds and running water. Miles of fragrant manzanita bushes bloom beneath them, and lily gardens and meadows and damp ferny glens, an endless variety of fragrance and color, compelling the admiration of every observer. Sweeping on over ridge and valley, these noble trees extend a continuous belt from end to end of the range, only slightly interrupted by sheer-walled canyons at intervals of about 15 and 20 miles. Here the great burly brown bears delight to roam, harmonizing with the brown boles of the trees beneath which they feed. Deer also dwell here and find food and shelter in the tangles with a multitude of smaller people. Above this region of giants, the trees grow smaller until the utmost limit of the timber line is reached on the stormy mountain slopes at a height of from 10 to 12,000 feet above the sea, where the dwarf pine is so lowly and hard beset by storms and heavy snow, it is pressed into flat tangles over the tops of which we may easily walk. Below the main forest belt, the tree likewise diminish in size, frost and burning, drought repressed and blasting alike. The rose-purple zone along the base of the range comprehends nearly all of the famous gold region of California. And here it was that the miners from every country under the sun assembled in a wild torrent-like rush to seek their fortunes. On the banks of every river, ravine, and gully, they have left their marks. Every gravel and boulder bed has been desperately riddled over and over again. But in this region, the pick and shovel, once wielded with savage enthusiasm, have been laid away, and only quartz mining is now being carried on to any considerable extent. The zone in general is made up of low, tawny, waving foothills, roughened here and there with brush and trees, and outcropping masses of slate-colored gray and red with lichens. The small masses of slate rising abruptly from the dry grassy sod in leaning slabs, looking like ancient tombstones in a deserted burying ground. In early spring, say from February to April, the whole of this foothill belt is a paradise of bees and flowers. Refreshing rains then freely fall. Birds are busy building their nests, and the sunshine is balmy and delightful. But by the end of May, the soil, plants, and sky seem to have been baked in an oven. Most of the plants crumble to dust beneath the foot, and the ground is full of cracks, while the thirsty traveler gazes with eager longing through the burning glare to the snowy summits looming like hazy clouds in the distance. The trees, 30 to 40 feet high with thin pale green foliage, stand far apart and cast but little shade. Crows and ravens, magpies, friends in distress, gather on the ground beneath the best shade trees, panting with drooping wings and bills wide open, scarce a note from any of them during the midday hours. Quails, too, seek the shade during the heat of the day about tepid pools in the channels of the larger mid-river streams. Rabbits scurry from thicket to thicket among the bushes, and occasionally a long-eared hare is seen cantering gracefully across the wider openings. The nights are calm and dewless during the summer, and 1,000 voices proclaim the abundance of life, notwithstanding the desolating effect of dry sunshine on the plants and larger animals. The hylas make a delightfully pure and tranquil music after sunset, and coyotes, the little despised dogs of the wilderness, brave hardy fellows, looking like withered wisps of hay, bark in chorus for hours. Mining towns, most of them dead, and a few living ones with bright little bits of cultivation about them, occur at long intervals among the belt, and the cottages covered with climbing roses, in the midst of orange and peach orchards and sweet-scented hay fields and fertile flats where water for irrigation may be had. But they are mostly far apart and make scarce any mark in general views. Every winter, the high Sierra and the middle forest region get snow in glorious abundance, and even the foothills are at times whitened. Then all the range looks like a vast beveled wall of purest marble. The rough places are then made smooth, the death and decay of the year is covered gently and kindly, and the ground seems to be as clean as the sky. And though silent in its flight from the clouds, and when it is taking its place on rock or tree or grassy meadow, how soon the gentle snow finds a voice. Slipping from the heights, gathering in avalanches, it booms and roars like thunder and makes a glorious show as it sweeps down the mountainside, arrayed in long silken streamers and wreathing swirling films of crystal dust. The north half of the range is mostly covered with floods of lava and dotted with volcanoes and craters, some of them recent and perfect in form, others in various stages of decay. The south half is composed of granite, nearly from base to summit, while a considerable number of peaks in the middle of the range are capped with metamorphic slates, among which are Mounts Dana and Gibbs to the east of Yosemite Valley, Mount Whitney, the culminating point of the range near its southern extremity, lifts its helmet-shaped crest to a height of nearly 14,700 feet. Mount Shasta, a colossal volcanic cone, rises to the height of 14,440 feet at the northern extremity and forms a noble landmark for all the surrounding regions within radius of 100 miles. Residual masses of volcanic rocks occur throughout most of the southern portion also, and a considerable number of old volcanoes on the flanks, especially along the eastern base of the range near Mono Lake and southward. But it is only to the northward that the entire range from base to summit is covered with lava. From the summit of Mount Whitney, only granite is seen. Innumerable peaks and spires, but little lower than its own storm-beaten crags, rise in groups like forest trees in full view, segregated by canyons of tremendous depth and ruggedness. On Shasta, nearly every feature in the vast view speaks of the old volcanic fires. Far to the northward, in Oregon, the icy volcanoes of Mount Pitt and the Three Sisters rise above the dark evergreen woods. Southward, Innumerable smaller craters and cones are distributed along the axis of the range and on each flank. Of these, Lassen's Butte is the highest, being nearly 11,000 feet above sea level. Miles of its flanks are reeking and bubbling with hot springs, many of them so boisterous and sulphurous they seem ever ready to become spouting geysers like those of the Yellowstone. And so, my friends, we will leave off there. Some reflections of the Sierras from John Muir, the beauty of California. I have driven up and down the coast many times. I have a soft spot in my heart for Mount Shasta and all of the mountain ranges in between, and I share their beauty and their majesty with you. I send you the blessings of the mountains. I send you the blessings of the ancient. I send you the blessings of the pine and redwood forests. I send you blessings of love as you travel off into the sweetest of dreams. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to keep you company. I am deeply grateful for you, and I look forward to connecting again soon. Sweet dreams, and thank you.